Welcome, Internet, to the Pixelplay podcast, your weekly podcast where we get together to discuss all the news, rumors, and discussions going on in the video game world. I am one of your hosts, Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy, joined as always by my co-host, Adam, CSRadical. In this week's episode, we are going to be talking about Microsoft bringing ads to a game near you, Nintendo bringing GBA games to an expansion pack near you, and Star Wars bringing more games to you. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, we are wherever you get your podcast by searching Pixelplay Podcast. Or if you want to see our lovely faces as we do this, you can find us on YouTube at Pixelplay Podcast, or even on Spotify. We're now there in our visual forms as well. If you like that and you want to be part of the conversation, we have a Discord. We'd love if you join us. We have some wonderful people in there, but we could always use a few more. And if you want to reach us on Twitter or on Instagram, you can search us at PixelplayCast. With all the rigmarole out of the way, Adam, how are you doing, my friend?
As a Canadian who just watched snow yesterday, I went, it could be better. And then I got up this morning and saw the fact that there was no snow on the ground and said, and that's exactly what better is. So, as it stands, very happy right now.
It is so weird, this weather. Like, I had Google bring photos into my, look back one year. And, like, this time last year, I was out in, like, T-shirt and shorts. Now, granted, that's a very low bar for me, but, like, it's an indication of, like, how wild the weather is this year from last year.
Well, it's pretty common, right? Like, anything between season, you're always going to expect, like, there's the, oh god, it's finally leaving, and then there's the one cold front that just hits just to remind you, nah, I'm not leaving just yet. And then, like, it's literally going to be, like, very warm spring weather, like, tomorrow, and then into the rest of the week. So it's like, whatever happened in the last couple of days is about to be gone again, and maybe this time permanently. I'm not holding up for it yet, because I do remember times where it was really cold in May and possibly even into June. It can happen, but it's pretty rare. So I'm the guy that goes when everybody else in, like, various groups and chats are always like, oh, thank God I finally get to put my coat away. I'm like, I don't put my coat away till, like, July sometimes, just in case. So.
And by that time, you're so close to the second round of winter, you're like, why put it away?
Well, that's also just why I don't have that many coats. That way I can just stick it in the back end of the closet and I never have to move it.
Exactly. Adam, I was going to ask, we did our spoiler cast for Horizon last week. So what have you been playing now that you finished Horizon? I'm still working on it, but we did our little conversation about Horizon and what we thought, and you finished it. So what have you been doing now to kind of kill the time?
Well, I've been all over the place, right? Like, obviously having MLB The Show 22 I've mentioned before. I still play. It's like my podcast game. Like, whenever I'm listening to something, I'll pop that in because it's very mindless. I can still hear everything in my ear and not really, like, lose focus. Because if I was playing, like, anything serious, like if I started up Cyberpunk right now, there's no way I could listen to a podcast because I'd want to hear every bit of dialogue going on. So it wouldn't be doable. So at least I've been playing that as a between game. Anything else, I've been all over the place. I've been trying to play Yakuza Like a Dragon. I might end up dropping that, actually, because it might be the fact that it's just a long game and I'm not ready for another long game right now. It may just be that it's too slow at this point for me right now. It may not be hitting. I may just have bias of the last 7 Yakuza games I've played that weren't like this. So, like, whenever I get around to playing Lost Judgment, which is the off-brand series that they do now, which is playing more like the original Yakuza games, maybe I'll love the hell out of that and realize, okay, maybe when it comes to their games that I'm going to start leaning to that stuff more than the JRPG stuff, which would be crazy to think from the JRPG guy, but hey, stranger things have happened. And then otherwise, I've been messing with Game Pass, just finding a bunch of short games. Like, I've been playing Life is Strange True Colors, which I will probably have a review for next week because I plan to finish the rest of it on the weekend. That's a game I've been playing with my girlfriend around because it's a pretty easy game to follow. I actually have a review, so I won't even touch that one until the end of the show when we get to that. And I'm considering looking at Lost in Random once I've kind of get some extra time to look at stuff. There's still Kenna Bridge of Spirits that I want to get through too because I know that's short. So I'm just trying to find something that's like sub 10 hours to kind of complete a few things in the backlog before I probably lean towards Cyberpunk unless something else diverts me, but we'll see.
When is Death's Door getting on your playlist?
I told you I gave it an hour and I lost interest after that.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that you said that.
It's the same thing. That's like, it's not a bad game. I just went, okay, I get why a lot of people like this, but I don't think this is something I'm going to be able to force myself to play.
I forgot that you had played that and you didn't like it.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I said I just couldn't get myself to keep playing it.
It's not that you didn't not like it. It's just you didn't like it enough to play it.
Look, Death's Door. Look, it's not you. It's me, okay?
All right, let's jump into the news for this week. Adam, let's start with the first one. Microsoft adding ads to your game. This is coming from Zach Zeisen at Kotaku. So they write, Business Insider reports that Microsoft wants to work with ad tech companies to create a system that will allow brands and advertisers to buy and place ads in free-to-play Xbox games, according to two people who spoke to Insider and who are reportedly involved with the program's ongoing planning and negotiations. According to these sources, the ads could appear as digitally rendered billboards in racing games or open world adventures. However, it's currently unknown what other forms these free to play ads could manifest as, or if they will include videos or audio. Business Insider was also unable to confirm if Microsoft and Xbox have started pitching advertisers and brands on the new ad system. Regardless, it's expected to launch the third quarter this year. A spokesperson for Microsoft told Kotaku that while it's always looking for ways to improve the experience for players and developers, the company had nothing further to share about the ad system at this time. Adam, how do you feel about the idea of ads coming to games, primarily free-to-play games on Xbox? How do you feel about that?
It really depends on what the ad format is. And it's not like it's the first time this has been attempted to, like way back in the day. I can't remember if it was Microsoft themselves or it was maybe EA, but somebody tried to do similar to this where they'd like pick certain ads and superimpose them over like banners that you would see like on a street side. And I know like I'm pretty sure Battlefield was one of them. I'm sure there are other cases of it too, but like it's not like this is out of the realm of already being done. Like in fact, it's already been tried and it went away because, well, the feedback wasn't very positive about it. I know, shocking. Gamers really unhappy that their games are littered with ads. But for me personally, and this is just me personally, it depends on what that ad is. If it feels like it belongs where it is, I'm okay with it. Like, I know a lot of people didn't like, say, the Battlefield one where there's like a Pepsi banner on the side of the road where they're on the map they're playing. But here's the thing. If it makes sense in the world it's in, what's the problem there? It's not stopping the gameplay. It's not diverting your attention. Like, when you play Saints Row, do you not stop and look at some of the silly ads that are on that wall? Do you play Grand Theft Auto and not look at some of the silly things that are there? So, like, eventually you do that. I guess the difference is, well, you're not going to buy, you know, whatever goofy ad that a Saints Row games has, but if a Pepsi ad is sitting there in your city banners and all the signage that's up on the billboards, I'm sure that, you know, your thinking is, oh, they're trying to sell me Pepsi. To which I go, yeah, that happens every time you walk into a convenience store. What's the difference? You know, it's not affecting your gameplay. And if it belongs, it's fine. If a game like Cyberpunk puts a Pepsi ad in there, to me that's weird because it's not a real like world. It's an alternate world. It's even a fictional universe. But if it's a game that's meant to be like in real life, like I would have no problem with The Last of Us having like a dilapidated Coca-Cola like billboard somewhere. You know, to me, I don't see the problem in that because it fits the world that it's in. In the same vein that, like, if, say, Halo decided to do a Coca-Cola ad, it'd be fucking weird because it doesn't make any sense to be there. Now, people will say, well, there's an Earth in Halo. I'm like, yes, but you're also presuming that Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola by the time you get to whatever year that is. The same would go for, say, Mass Effect if they took place on Earth at any point. Or if you were just listening to a radio transmission on your ship and it happens to have a Coke ad in the middle of it. That's where it gets weird. If it takes you out of the immersion, then that's where the problem lies. Like, I don't want to suddenly, like, after a cutscene's over, have a 15-second ad like it's a YouTube video. I don't want that. Obviously, no one wants that. But I think if there's something like, again, if you're walking down a street and there's a bus shelter with an ad of any product that you'd see on a normal street corner, I don't have a problem with that personally. I know some people probably would because they think that it's, you know, it's a company just taking more money to try to sell you products and you're not getting anything back. To which I say, okay, then you should be making that argument instead of saying fuck ads to go, okay, these ads are fine, but can we at least you not charge us an arm and a leg for every fucking piece of content? If, for example, Madden wants to have all these crazy banners on their arenas so that way they can sell you everything under the sun, how about you charge us 25% less for all the currency that you do, or 50%. What's the number? I don't care, but put a reduction in. If you're making more money by getting ads and it's doing you no work, then and you're going to force your customer base to have to look at them whether they want to or not, then give them an incentive to be okay with it. If Madden 23 or whatever the next one comes out and there's more ads and people go, wow, there's a lot more ads in this game, but then the experts go, hey, have you actually noticed that the packs are like 25% less expensive than what they used to be? Then I think you can have a conversation there. But if the conversation is just, we're going to throw ads in the games, then I'm not really psyched for that personally.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a situation where we're going to have a discount. I mean, the thing is, they're talking right now about free-to-play games, so there's no cost to the player for them to incur. I can see the slippery slope of, hey, what happens when this starts coming to our paid games? I think that there is a precedent for this, and we've already seen it. And I completely agree with you. There's no issue if it makes sense. Like, I know that I think it was Gran Turismo had advertisements, or some sort of racing game had advertisements along the side, and that makes sense. If you're playing NFL or whatever, those are where ads naturally appear, and so it kind of adds, to a certain extent, a bit of realism there. The pitfalls I think that you fall into is that, one, does it become cumbersome or hindering to the game? If, let's say, a game decides that it's no longer going to do that advertising, does that then throw off the game by not having content to put in their advertising space? The other slippery slope I see is from the marketing perspective. So if I am a brand owner, let's say Coca-Cola, if I'm Pepsi, if I'm whoever, and I'm trying to put my marketing, I'm going to be cautious of where and how my marketing is put. So in something like The Last of Us, I may not feel comfortable with the machine having blood on it or something like that, or it being used to crush somebody or something like that. So I think they're going to, you see this right now with YouTube, in the sense that, brands are concerned about what ads they're in front of. And I wonder if you have a thing let's say, for example, Call of Duty's no Russian thing. It makes sense for advertisements to be in that scenario, but is Coca-Cola going to be thrilled about being in that sort of environment? Or if you look at a game like Spec Ops: The Line, is that what they want their brand to be associated with? So I can see, I worry that the marketing aspect will then start to impact or dictate how games are made in order to make them ad friendly or ad and marketing friendly. And that's something I don't want to see. I like to have that creative autonomy for creators to build the games that they want. That being said, I don't super care right now because it is free games that I don't play, so I'm not invested in that role. But I also see the idea that, what's that term? If the product is free, the product is me, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so if I'm trading my eyes to watch ads in order to play free games, I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. We see that in mobile games, and mobile games have their own problems and issues, but it's not an unprecedented territory. So I think it can make sense. I mean, we also see advertisements already on the Microsoft dashboard at times. So I don't know. To me, it kind of feels like it cheapens it a little bit, but I understand why they would do it. I don't think it's the end of the world, but I don't think it's something that will intrinsically benefit the gamers significantly.
No.
I know that I was going to say, I know that gaming has gotten more expensive to make, and we haven't seen a huge uptick in price. I know PlayStation's selling their games for more than they used to, but that pales in comparison with the development costs have become, especially with a free-to-play game, that if it's a way for them to kind of support and supplement their cost, it makes sense, but I can't say I'm excited for it.
Well, the reason that I'm optimistic that we can handle this as a community is because anytime that somebody's really tried to tread heavily in the wrong direction for doing advertising, like NBA 2K was a big example. They started suddenly just putting ads all over the place, and people flipped their shit about it, and that changed things. I do think that there's a breaking point, and obviously it will be done when it comes to that. And again, I'm willing to accept a lot of things if companies put a show of good faith that they're willing to make the necessary changes to kind of, I guess, incentivize the allowance of these things, like a compromise. Because my thing would be, look, if you want to make more money, that's fine, but show that it isn't just for money. Make sure that these games are coming out in better condition. We should be hearing less if you're suddenly making all this extra money now in advertising, if you're say Activision Blizzard or EA as two great examples, pay your fucking employees better. We want to hear less stories about, your companies being utter dog shit. So I think it goes both ways. Like, I'm willing to open up the opportunity so long as we are all aware and able to criticize it. Hey, you guys have made all this extra money, but you're not doing anything productive with it. And we as consumers can smell bullshit a while away. And generally speaking, sales will drop. Not everything is going to be Call of Duty indestructible. And even then, Call of Duty to some extent isn't indestructible anymore. So there will come points where things just go away. I mean, you look at how Konami's fallen off the face of the planet. Capcom fell off the face of the planet for a while because they weren't putting their A game in, and now they've made their comeback. I do believe that as a whole, we will strike when we need to if things get out of balance. We may not necessarily get the conclusion that we want, but it will be to a point that we've shown that, hey, you can't completely turn the scales to the billionaire class and expect to not have any repercussions for it, which, to be honest, is the best we can hope for in a world that's legitimately run by these people. So, as much as people want to say, well, you can't start anything because, then they'll just try to take more, to which I say, even if we say no, they're going to start the thing. So all I'm saying is like, look, if this is going to be there, let's then, instead of saying immediately no, and they're going to say yes anyway, because that's what they do, they just push it until that no is impossible to ignore. Instead of just saying no, say, no, but if you were to do so, can you at least do this? Which is better than just saying fuck off, because let's be honest, a billionaire has never suddenly said, oh, okay, and taken his ball and ran home because you told him to fuck off once. It doesn't work. We know this for a fact. We've said this a million times about DLC, and what happens? You put up mobile games where to buy currency that literally gets you nothing can cost you $50. So let's not kid ourselves here. Us saying no isn't going to change the fact that they're going to do this. So the correction that we should be taking, in my opinion, is to at least not just say no, but to also offer ideas to try to make the industry as a whole better. And I think, generally speaking, the context that I've seen from most people is just the no, because I get it. It's the fear, right? You don't want suddenly every game to become, oh, it's Call of Duty Coca-Cola, or here's Final Fantasy brought to you by Sprite, or here's The Last of Us 3 brought to you by Nike. Like, I get what everybody's worried about, in the same vein that, like, you think of things like sports or television or anything else where everybody's worried that it's just going to be a walking billboard. I get it. But at the same time, there are certain ways that you can use this way to either enhance the world that you're in. Like, I can't imagine but what would be the problem with like a Sims game having Coca-Cola advertising? Does it really change anything? No, I wouldn't say so. But if all of a sudden you have all this extra advertising, and then on top of that, they're upping the prices of things, well, then I think we can start making conversations here. Because it's like, look, you have this sudden influx of money that you didn't have to do barely any work for, and now you're raising prices too? I think I got a problem with that. And that's where we should be coming in. But just because the suggestion is being made without like any idea of what it actually will look like, I think is more everybody playing the slippery slope game rather than taking a second to go, okay, I don't like where this could be going, but at the very least, if this was the case, here's what I would accept it in. And like I said, like the advertising would be like one instance where it would be like a billboard on the side of the road. I can be okay with that. As long as it doesn't mean like all of a sudden I'm in a cutscene in Halo 7 or whatever they end up calling it, and suddenly Master Chief is talking to Cortana, and all of a sudden, like in the corner, you can hear Marines talking about, man, have you tried the new flavor of Pepsi?
Like, I just like to imagine that like Call of Duty's next character for Warzone is gonna be like Tony the Tiger or Count Chocula or something like that.
See, I actually don't see the problem in that if it's funny. Like there's a line too where you can cross with advertising and marketing that can be clever or like so bad it's fun. Because like because Pepsi Man exists.
Cool spot. Get a cool spot going there.
So like, look, there are ways to make it work. Like for God's sakes, there's a Mass Effect thing where they like had ridiculous armor that was also advertising for Dragon Age, or Final Fantasy 13-2, I think, had Mass Effect armor. There's always weird ways that you can find things that make no sense in the world they're from, but because it looks so dumb, it works. So I think there are ways to make it functional, but like we're not talking in the context of like a serious main single player story campaign. I think we're meaning like Easter egg, like secret bonus mission, like DLC, or even like multiplayer related stuff like skins. I wouldn't have a problem with any of that stuff if it was done cleverly. If it wasn't just a blatant like just shooing in like whatever you can to make it in the game and just get your money and run. Yeah, we can have a problem with that. But anything in the world, like there are so many good sources of advertising in films that you never notice. Like a lot of people forget that Fifth Element, for example, has a space McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think about it because why would you? It just blended in.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is the idea that we do have marketing and market placement in movies, TV shows. I think books are really the only thing that don't do that product placement. And so I think a lot of other industries do it, and oftentimes if it's done well, you don't notice it. And
yeah. There's other times where you get like the Power Rangers movie where it's like Rita Repulsa in the new movie walking around just yelling Krispy Kreme, and it's weird. Yeah, there's the difference between that.
I haven't seen the new one, so I didn't realize that was a thing.
Good, don't. Her literally the power she's looking for is under a Krispy Kreme, and she spends like a chunk of the movie, like not a massive chunk of the movie, but there is a portion of the movie where she starts running around going, "Where is the Krispy Kreme?"
Wonderful.
That's when it's done terribly.
See, and that's why we don't want these ads in the game. So avoid that, Mike.
Unless we get paid in free Krispy Kremes, then fuck it, fine. I'll whore myself out for free shit.
This episode has been sponsored to you by Adam. All right, let's move on to the next big news coming out this week. There was a leak that GBA might be coming to Nintendo's Switch Online expansion pass. So this is coming from Gavin Lane at Nintendo Life. So last year there were whispers that Nintendo was planning to bring Game Boy games to its Switch Online subscription service to join the existing library of NES and SNES titles, plus the N64 and Sega Genesis catalog available as part of the expansion pack subscriber tier. Now, a leak seems to provide evidence that Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games may be hitting the service soon. According to @TrashBandicoot on Twitter, files have been leaked onto 4chan, which include a Nintendo-developed GBA emulator codenamed Sloop and a Game Boy emulator called Hyoko. Both developed by Nintendo of Europe's NERD, Nintendo European Research Development Team, the Paris-based subsidiary responsible for much of the company's emulation efforts in recent years, including emulators in the classic mini consoles and N64, GameCube, and Wii emulation, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Adam, I have two questions I thought we could tackle with this one. One, does the expansion pass need the GBA games, and what do we think of the expansion pass so far? Now that we've seen, we know Game Pass and we've seen PlayStation's new subscription service, how does the expansion pass or expansion pack, stack up against everything else? And what Game Boy games would you like to see on this service?
Well, for starters, if they're adding it to the expansion pass, it's needed because I still don't think it's worth it just to have emulation. Like I still, I know that there's extra content if you play like Animal Crossing. I know there's the extra stuff with Mario Kart now, but to me, like unless you own these couple of games and you play them regularly, I still don't think they're worth anything. Like unless you're literally playing those games constantly, I don't think that part of the expansion pass makes a lot of sense. So when it comes down to it, it's just emulation, and to me, there's nowhere near enough. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you're going to have emulation as a big selling point to any sort of a digital pass, like a subscription, you need to have not just a small library. Like we made the very comment when they announced the Sega Genesis and N64 one where it had like 10 each at most, to which is not enough. That number needs to have 3 zeros to it. That's why I'm at least ready to see what the library is for the PlayStation Plus ones, because the number had a 3 digits to it. So that means games, not a couple games, right? So in the case of Game Boy Advance, it's needed. They need as many games on that library as they can to justify it, because to me, I look at that service and go, well, unless I play Mario Kart right now or Animal Crossing, what am I really getting out of it? Because in most cases, I'm not playing these old games because I can do it for free. I know not legally, but hey, I don't care. And in the sense of, anything like really, it's the same thing with the eShop where you have to spend like $10 to get Super Mario 3, which makes again no sense because it's a game that has no value anymore. So I don't know. Like the only thing I can say is, yeah, it needs to be part of the expansion pass because it needs more games to make it worthwhile. Like that library needs to have like more than 100 games altogether before I can even consider it seriously, because there just isn't enough to make it worthwhile. Because most of those games, I mean, let's be completely honest, you might play for a little bit, but you're not finishing every single one of those games anymore. You're probably playing it just to feel nostalgic for an hour, and then you'll be moving back on to the other thing you're doing.
See, I disagree with you at this point. The more and more I see of the expansion pass online, the more it makes sense to me. And I'm not a huge Nintendo fan. I'm not the biggest, I don't use my Switch a lot, but it's making sense to me. And here's my thought process is that I definitely think that it would benefit from having the the Game Boy collection on there as well. More is always going to help out. But I think Nintendo's doing something very smart. I like the fact that they're adding stuff to this in the sense of like, when the DLC for Animal Crossing came out, it's free with the expansion pass. Mario Kart Deluxe on the expansion pass. And if I remember correctly, like the cost of the expansion pass is like something like $5 a month. And I think PlayStation is working out to now being like top tier is what, 15 or $20 a month. So I think, and Game Passes is I think 20 as well. So like, yeah, it's an underwhelming service, but it's also not as expensive as the top tiers of PlayStation and Xbox. And I think, having a catalog of, hey, here's some old games that, are constantly cycling through, it gives you a reason to kind of keep your subscription as well, because you want to, see what's coming. And then the other part is that, when a new game gets a DLC, I think we're going to start seeing that Nintendo DLC will automatically be coming to the expansion pass for free. And I think that's a brilliant idea. Like, you're not giving away the Nintendo games for free, which is something Nintendo wouldn't do because they like to keep their games priced high. But if you're a fan and you're playing a lot of these games, know that when new content comes out, you're getting it at like with your service included. And I think that's something that like a lot of PlayStation fanboys would have liked to have seen with their PlayStation subscription, in that, hey, when the Last of Us Part 2's DLC, if it ever comes out, the Horizon Forbidden Dawn DLC, when it comes out, those are all free as part of PlayStation Plus. Like, that's huge. Like, I think that's a really cool idea to do. So is it the most impressive? No, but I think they found that sweet spot in terms of cost and benefit that I think is really, really smart. There's something for people who are playing their new polished games, but people who also need stuff in between. And I think that's really smart.
Well, yeah, but then I can make the question too. It's like, okay, that's, they're obviously offering some things and for a cheaper price. But at the same time, what are they offering you for $45 a year? They're offering you DLC for 2 games on their entire library, and then a very small collection of retro games. That's it. To me, I don't think that's worth $45 at this time. I've probably said it before on the show. They need to add a lot more before this thing becomes to the point that it's now like a fair price and then becomes further into a good deal. Game Pass is beyond a good deal. And there are reasons for that, because of what you purely get for that price, essentially for free as long as you're paying this monthly fee. The amount of games you get is insane. And then if you want to talk the PlayStation side, PlayStation is basically going to be what the expansion pass is if you get the highest tier for a much larger price, but it also has other tiers that resolve into a bunch of current games that you don't have to pay money for. And also, every month you get all of these random games, some of them great, some of them not so great, but there are some decent ones in there for free every month. And Nintendo doesn't do that. Nintendo doesn't suddenly turn around and go, hey guys, it's January, here's 2 free games for you guys. And at no point would they ever make it one of their classics. At no point you would see like Mario Odyssey being a free game. You would never see even something as off the board as, say, I don't know, like Pokemon Snap being free. I don't even think they would go to that end. So the argument goes both ways. Yeah, it's a cheaper price, but I don't think they're doing enough to make it worth even that price. I mean, you could make the argument that PlayStation Plus may not be worth its weight, depending on what games they offer as for free. And, when we get to premium and extra, depending on which way you go, we'll see how that works out when we see what that list of games looks like. So that still is an unanswered question, but I think we can make a case that it might not be that great a deal either. So you are left with Xbox Game Pass as the gold standard. And if I'm going to compare those two next to each other, Nintendo Switch Online is a shit deal, in my opinion, because it's not enough yet. It's not enough to balance out that price. Now, if the expansion pass, because again, we're talking at this point 2 games of DLC and a very small amount of N64 and Sega Genesis games. Now, if in a year from now, that number counts to maybe 5+ games of DLC and has a library of more than 100 retro games, then we can have a better conversation. But until then, every time I hear stories about these like pitter-pattering of things they're adding to Switch, I go, guys, pick it the hell up because you're still ripping off your customers right now. That's just how I look at it.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
If these rumors are true and they are building a Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advanced emulator, what games did you want to see? What games would you hope to see on there?
Oh God. Well, you have to start with Fire Emblem. That would be me. Obviously, you go to Zelda with Minish Cap. Metroid Fusions would be big ones. I think you'd have to also go there and put Golden Sun on there. I think that would be a shame if it wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to. I don't even remember what Mario games were on there. But like, again, that number better not start with less than 10. I want, like, if they're gonna bring this out, guys, how freaking small are the size of these games? There is no reason that they can't throw 50 on. Like, stop. That number should be minimum 25. If I hear about 8 GBA games they're throwing on, we're coming back on the show when that announcement gets made, and I'm literally going to yell into this microphone for 15 minutes again. Like,
Yeah.
Stop. Like, if I literally scroll down this ranker list of, like, the top GBA games, I'm going to sit here and tell you guys, like, at least the top 50 should be in there.
See, for me, I think the ones I'd like to see is I'd like to see the original Red and Blue Pokemon.
Well, that's Game
Pinball
Boy
was an
Color.
amazing game. So the thing does say Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance.
Okay, well, if we're talking that, then yeah, just literally like Pokemon, Link's Awakening, like
Link's Awakening.
You can go all over the bloody place.
I'd say all the Legend of Zelda games that you can't get anywhere but on the Game Boys. I'd like to see.
Oh
those.
God, what's the other ones?
The
Oracle of Ages and Seasons.
Yep. The Pokemon games are one. I'd say there's a lot of good games, and I'd love to see them come out. So.
But yeah, like, dude, like I could go on forever about like great Game Boy Advance games. It's just I'm ready to see an announcement of how it's like Minish Cap, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Metroid Fusion, Fire Emblem, only one of them, and like a couple of random ones you've probably never heard of or were never released in America. Like I'm ready to see this list and laugh at it, What
color was your Game Boy or Game Boy Color or whatever you had?
I had the translucent purple one.
Yeah, Atomic Purple, that's where it's at. I had one of those too. I had Atomic Purple from both my Game Boy Color and my Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, the Game Boy Color was the purple. The Game Boy Advance was just like a straight, like solid purple.
Oh. No, wait, maybe I think my Game Boy Advance was actually blue. It was a translucent blue.
Or at least it might have been a blue. I don't remember. It was either a blue or purple. I remember that much.
I can't remember. Anyways, moving on away from Nintendo, let's wrap up with our last big story of the week. Amy Hennig is taking another swing at a new Star Wars game. So this is coming from StarWars.com. I think that's StarWars.com. So they write, a new Star Wars adventure is on the way from one of gaming's most acclaimed creators. Skydance New Media today announced a collaboration with Lucasfilm Games to develop and produce a narrative-driven action-adventure game featuring an original story in the Star Wars galaxy. Helming Skydance's New Media is award-winning writer and director Amy Hennig, a game industry legend whose credits include the blockbuster series Legacy of Kain, Jak and Daxter, and Uncharted. Skydance New Media was formed in 2019 with the goal of creating high-fidelity, richly interactive experiences crafted for traditional gaming platforms, as well as emerging streaming services, and designed to be appealing, inviting, and accessible to a global audience. Since its creation, the studio has assembled a team of developers and artists with decades of AAA experience in action-adventure gaming, as well as a diverse team of creative consultants from the worlds of film, television, games, and comics. This is the second significant project announced for the game studio, which was formerly by Hennig and veteran producer Julian Beek to pioneer a new category of narrative-driven interactive entertainment. In late 2021, the studio announced a partnership with Marvel Entertainment to craft an all-new game with an original story and their unique take for beloved Marvel characters. Adam, are we getting overwhelmed, one, with Star Wars games, and two, just licensed games?
I was about to I thought I was about to break your heart by being like I'm burnt out on Star Wars.
Mhm.
Like unless we're talking about the Old Republic or the Knights of the Old Republic remake, I saw the story and went, "Oh my god, can we slow down with Star Wars games, please? Like can we seriously slow down? Like I'm already getting close to the point that if I hear about one more big Marvel game that I may be like, "Guys, can we just chill?"
Sorry, you said Marvel. Do you mean Marvel or Star Wars?
Oh, both. Like
Yeah.
I'm at the point now that if I even hear an announcement for another Marvel game, I'd be like, guys, can we take it easy for a second here? We don't even have a release date for any of the ones we have announced. Same goes for Star Wars. We don't have announcements for dates, and yet we think there is the I can't.
Here, I can
the,
go. I
the
can go
David
through it right now
Cage
with
one.
you.
Like I can't think of the name of the
Quantum
stunning.
Dreams.
Yeah, Quantum Dream.
Quantum Dreams.
We have a Fallen Order 2 potentially. I'm
Yep.
sure DICE is working on something else.
Knights of the Old Republic.
I'm sure
Ubisoft game.
well, I mean, there's Knights of the Republic. I'm sure Ubisoft's, there's that rumored thing. I'm sure, they're probably trying to make a Battlefront 3 so they can do some other bullshit microtransaction thing to piss the fans off with again. That's already 5 potentially. 4 we can pretty much say are already in production. Do we know a date for any of them? I don't think the answer is yes to any of them. I don't even think the Knights of the Republic remake has a date yet.
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm with you. And I agree. I think it's the same issue that we have with the Marvel games because, we had Marvel Avengers, Spider-Man.
But here's the thing: we only know of 2, I think, at this point, and even then, I'm like, all right, that's cool, we're good. Just chill with that. True. Unless it's something if it's a Marvel Ultimate Alliance 4, okay, fine, I'll listen. But if it's another single-player campaign Marvel game, I'd be like, guys, there's already 2. Unless this is an Xbox exclusive thing, which it wouldn't be because Sony has the rights. Yeah, I know we're good. We're good for a little bit. Slow down. There is such thing as too much of a good thing.
Yeah, so I'm a huge Star Wars fan, obviously, as you guys know. I got the Lego. I've talked about it a million times. The problem I have is that there is too much of a good thing coming all at once, and this is the Disney commodification of IP, right? Just keep turning them until they no longer work. And we had this problem with the movies in the sense that there was a new movie every 6 to 12 months, and yay, I love more Star Wars movies and stuff, but the constant drip feed doesn't make it that I'm excited now when it happens. And this is, I feel, for me, and I'm not a big Marvel person, so maybe the experience is lost to me, but this is the problem I have with the Marvel, is that it's a constant stream of more and more content to consume, and it gets tiring. And I'm not saying Star Wars is the most groundbreaking original thing of all time, but it's when you see it when you have it once every couple years, you're like, oh hey, this is great, I remember why I love this. But when you're looking and watching it constantly and you're constantly getting more content, you start to see the cracks, you start to see the repetition, you're starting to see the formulaic aspect. And this is something I feel like Marvel suffers from, in that you're getting it so often that you don't have time to forget, you don't have time to kind of move on, and it doesn't feel fresh when the next one comes out. And this is what I worry about with the Skydance New Media game coming out. I'm excited to see it. I like Amy Hennig's games, but I just wonder if when it falls, if it's going to feel tired, right? Unless it does something drastically different. But I mean, it's a double-edged sword of Star Wars. Is how do you make something feel original and new, but also hit all the buttons that you need to for Star Wars? And I feel like The Mandalorian did it great, but for every one of those, you get something like Book of Boba Fett, which is not bad, but it's not amazing. It's forgettable, consumable stuff that you just eat and forget. So I don't know. I think that we're getting too much of both Marvel and even I'd say DC as well. This licensing, are we seeing a fad right now in licensing games? Is that just me that you're feeling like we're getting way too many licensed games at this point?
It's hard to say yes or no to that just because there hasn't been like a massive influx of them yet because they haven't come out.
It's coming.
That's the thing. We'll know in the next 3 to 5 years what the answer actually is, because once we
Hmm.
see that Gotham Knights, Justice League,
Suicide Squad,
Wolverine, all right, yeah, I
Spider-Man.
meant Justice League as Kill the Justice League.
Yep. Sorry.
But then you also have like
Wolverine,
Wolverine and
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, and then you'll have
And
like,
what's that other Marvel game? The one being made from the guys from who did oh my god, what the heck is that game?
is
The
there
alien
another
one.
one besides those
XCOM.
two?
But the XCOM developers.
Oh, right. I forgot about that one because that one's been staying dark for a while.
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now because it's kind of lost on me, but I think like it depends on what we're talking about here. I think at this moment,
Hmm.
Marvel, like I'll talk from my experience with Marvel. I don't think Marvel game wise is in the same situation that the movies are in for a lot of people. I'm not in
Hmm.
that situation personally, but I understand why a lot of people are kind of burnt out. The games, we aren't seeing like a massive influx yet. I think it's coming because
Hmm.
Spider-Man did so well, but I think Avengers kind of quelled it a little bit because they realized, okay, you can't just slap the label on it. We still got to put effort in. So for me, I'm not ready to say outright we've seen too many because we haven't seen the sheer amount of flops that like we used to see in the PS2, PS3 era where every tie-in like movie game was utter garbage. It was literal shovelware that you'd see in the Walmart bin for $10 like 3 months later.
Hmm.
I don't think we're there yet because right now most of the games that seem to be tying into Marvel specifically, but we'll see obviously when Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad come out, and then we'll obviously see again with Wolverine and Spider-Man. We'll see what happens with the myriad of Star Wars games. If the quality is low, then the problem starts. But in my opinion, if all 5 of these Star Wars games that we talked about, if they're all 7 pluses, I don't think that's a problem then because it means they're high quality. But if there's a 9, an 8, and a bunch of 6s, okay, then we have the problem now because the quality isn't as high. If Wolverine and Spider-Man are both top-end games, if Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League are both high-quality games, I don't think that's a problem because it sounds like a pretty good problem if you have an influx of really good games. To me, that's the thing. It's more of a crap, I don't have enough time to do all these. That's a great problem to have, in my opinion, because it means you always have something going rather than being caught in that moment of, oh my god, there's nothing to do, I'm so bored. I think it
See,
goes both ways. I think I can understand the idea of maybe being the overwhelming part of it, but at the
mhm.
same time too, unless you have that fear of missing out, which I personally don't. I'm okay with waiting 2 years for a game if I have to. I
Mhm.
waited. I would have waited another year for Spider-Man Miles Morales, and I just happened to get it through a friend, so it worked out that way. Horizon, I can wait for 6 months. I'm always able to do that. But if you're one of those people that can't, then this is probably infuriating to you.
Yeah, I think for me, the one of the concerns I have, and I think there is a tsunami of licensed games coming, and I'm kind of dreading that. But I think the other problem I have with all these licensing games is that it does take away from a creative element, right? The idea that Amy Hennig is working on a Marvel and a Star Wars game, great, cool, that's awesome. But that means that she's not working on a new IP. She's not working on a new property, right? Like Uncharted wasn't a licensed game before. Jack and Daxter wasn't a licensed game. Like those are games that are original with a unique story, unique characters, and that's something that I like and I want to see more of, right? We don't get a lot of new IPs anymore, and I worry that people are going to lean more and more on licensing, and we're going to have the same thing that we see with movies now, in that everything is a sequel, everything is just a remake, a license, or whatever. And I want to see more creativity being done in terms of coming up with new characters and new stories, so that we do get more Ghost of Tsushima's, we do get more Horizons, like more Starfields from Bethesda. Like that's the stuff I want to see. um Rather than just seeing another iteration of Wolverine, instead of seeing another iteration of, you know, Boba Fett or something like that. I'd like to see some creativity being done. And I know that there's going to be an argument to be said, well, that, you can still have that creativity um, within an established universe. But I don't know. Like I look at something like Infamous, right? Infamous was created in the world where, superhero games weren't something that we're really looked at or excited about. And so they created a brand new one. They created their own superhero in their own world with their own story, and I thought that was really fresh and exciting. And it just, you sort of get you get tied in when you start going into licensing, because you're now restricted by rules and established ideas within a property, right?
Well, I'm going to make an argument that I don't think licensed games are going to be the reason that this happens. Like, maybe we're already in a state where new IP just isn't
Mhm,
flowing the way that it used to. I mean,
mhm,
you want to talk about how Amy Hennig could be working on new IP, but instead she's working with Marvel and Star Wars. Can we make the argument that maybe she didn't need to be working on that many Uncharted games? Because do we need 4 Uncharted games? I know everybody likes them, but do we need 4 of them? There's the argument too that like everything that we like seems to go through phases. Like, I want a third Horizon. I want 5 Horizons for all I care.
mhm,
But does that mean that Guerrilla Games might not be working on any new IP? Possibly. And
mhm,
I think that's kind of like the double-edged sword that you take too. It's like, look, maybe, X company could not be working on a Star Wars property, but at the same time, they might work on a new IP. It might not get over well. It gets canceled. Now there's no game. So there really is like both sides to that coin. If you want to get rid of like the excess flow of licensing games, sure, we might get some new IP. We also just might get another freaking Fallout game. We might just get another like X property again. We might get like somebody might try to take another stab at like Duke Nukem and fail that again. So like it goes both ways to be honest. So my metric really just comes down to, is whatever they're shipping out high quality? Like, is it actually stuff that we're all going to like, or like the majority of us are going to like? Because if that's the case, I'll sit on stuff for a while, because we live in this age where there are so many games to the point that we can't get to them all, especially if you own things like Game Pass and soon to be the future PlayStation Plus models where there's a much bigger library to pick from. I think we're going to get to a point that like, there's going to be a like E3, if it ever happens to exist ever again, or if it ends up being the Summer of Game Fest, or if it ends up being the PlayStation Experience and we see like 25 trailers, and if 11 of them are licensed properties, if 9 of them are good, I could care less what license they are. If they're good games, I'm okay with letting a lot of stuff go, because it means that the quality's there and it means my money's getting worthwhile. So if it means a couple of new IP maybe don't show up, I'm almost willing to take that bullet if it means that we aren't getting a bunch of new IP that just don't succeed, or just didn't have the right leadership because they didn't know what they wanted to do with it. Because that's
mhm.
another problem with new IP, is that it isn't necessarily meaning that it's going to be great, because a lot of these concepts just may not work. In the same vein that reviving projects sometimes don't work. In the same vein that licensing games sometimes doesn't work. I don't think there's really a correct answer. So my only thing is, if the quality is good, I'm okay with any option, to be honest.
Mhm. Okay, I see where you're coming from. I have different hesitations, but I see where you're coming from.
It
I think you're talking about having good games versus bad games, and I think that's a separate discussion. But I see where
Well,
you're coming from as
it's
well.
more in the lines of like, there's so much else to play that if
Mhm,
there might be one too many Star Wars games, that's okay, because somebody else is gonna love that game, and yet I've got like 1,000 other things I can turn my attention to otherwise. I don't feel like there's this point of like there's nothing new coming, because every time we see a PlayStation experience, every time we see one of the big Xbox conferences, there's always a bunch of things that I've never seen before that I go, that looks cool. I
mhm,
don't like, I'm not, as soon as I come out of one of these major video packages, whether it's a Summer Game Fest or whether it's the Game Awards with all their trailers, whether it's a Sony thing, whether E3 comes back from the dead for the 19th time this year alone and does something, and I come out of that thing being like, man, there was like one interesting thing and the rest was all stuff we've seen. Then we can have that. Then I think we can have that conversation in much broader detail. But for now, I don't feel like we're there enough that I'm personally concerned, because I think right now we're still in an age where we're just getting just blindsided by so much good stuff, that the fact that like some of these things happen to be licensed, depending on if you like the thing or not, is kind of like either a cherry on top for you, or it's more just like a shrug of the arm, because you're like, okay, well, I'll just go look at the other 50 things that have my attention at this point.
yeah. Speaking of things that have our attention, Adam, you have an untimely review for Chinatown Detective Agency. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we are not rich enough or influential enough to get our games before release dates, so we release our game reviews on our own dime and on our own time. And that's why we bring you guys untimely reviews. So this week, Adam has for us Chinatown Detective Agency. So, Adam, tell us a little bit about this game and whether it is worth our time.
Well, it's funny how you talk about how we do this, because we can't get a hold of it. Well, sometimes Game Pass just makes that easy now. Thank God for that service, right?
Still on
Um,
your own dime.
Yeah, I mean, technically, but at least now I can say, hey, it's not really that untimely. The game's only been out for a little while now.
I
So,
got the jingle down. Don't make me change
no, no,
it.
no, no, no. I'm going to criticize it on this specific occasion. Look, we literally just did a show last week about Horizon. That was pretty timely, except for the fact that, we took a little bit longer to do it than I think IGN does because, we don't get paid to crunch.
Well, it took us what, like 6 weeks?
Yeah,
Roughly?
something like that. But anyways, Chinatown Detective Agency. So this was very much like what you would expect, like the old like point and click games, like your Tales of Monkey Island, your Grim Fandango kind of stuff. And graphically, it looks kind of like that. It looks like something you'd be playing in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Does the job graphically. It's pretty bare bones in what it is. You're a detective in Chinatown in Singapore. What?
Slow down, Professor.
Whoa,
Slow down, Professor.
Whoa.
I'm getting lost here. I'm a detective in Chinatown.
I know. I didn't want to throw you off there too much with all this information that I'm throwing at you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But no, it's pretty basic. Like the thing that's going to make this review different from normal is that I didn't finish this game, and there's going to be a reason why. And it sucks because it's one of those games that like I actually liked at the start. So like I said, it's a basic point and click. You start out just doing like very minimum cases, but the gimmick to this game is that it tells you that, hey, there's going to be a lot of like codes or research you have to do to find the answers to things or to be able to understand what these clues mean. But we're not going to give you like hints that if you walk around the map, you find. No, you would like open your phone if you were trying to figure something out and look it on Google. So the thing is like, it's, hey, here's this puzzle. Like, for example, this guy gives you like this collective, like really ancient stamp from like a country that is unidentifiable with a stamp on it that you can't tell what it is. And I spent like 5 minutes Googling postage stamps in like this area, these cancellation codes that get stamped on these things. And I was trying to figure out like where the stamp came from and where it was canceled from and where it was sent back to. So I'm figuring all this information out. And I thought that was really cool because it was you actually doing the sleuthing, not just you clicking on things in the cutscenes and the game itself telling you the answers. It was you finding the answers yourself, actually. So I thought it was great for a time. The problem is, amongst other things, but the biggest thing that stood out to me after like maybe 4 or 5 hours that I played of it was it's literally just walk to an instant travel thing, quickly click on a couple of things, read a bunch of dialogue that is either voice acted or not, depending on if the game wants to do it, because legitimately I've had some scenes where no dialogue happens. I have to restart the checkpoint, and now there's voice acting in that dialogue sequence again. So I'm like, okay, that's different. So that happens. But by the time you get a certain ways in, you just realize all you're doing is walking, clicking, and then you need to bring out Google and try to find the answer. And then if you don't, you either look it up or you go to this person in the library that if you pay a fee, you can get a hint. Or you can outright get the solution. And I found that it was a myriad of either the solution is way too difficult for a normal person to figure out. Like, there is a Polybius cipher in this game that I didn't recognize was a Polybius cipher until I got the hint that it was a Polybius cipher, and then I could Google what that was. So, like, there are things where it feels like you're being punished for not being dumb, but for just not being a genius, I guess. So that was kind of irritating. But then the biggest part is that these things just don't change. There's no, like, real difference to what you're doing. You get a hint and you either have to decode something or you have to search something up to try to find like what country this is from. It really felt like I was doing the two same things over and over again. So I either felt marginally clever by the time that I was getting bored of it, or I felt stupid because somehow I don't know what this string of 15 numbers and letters actually is supposed to represent yet. So there's already that frustration. And then, quite frankly, and I get it's an indie game, but my God, is this thing a buggy mess. I soft-locked in this 4 to 5 hour instance more than 10 times, aka I did something either too fast or out of order and it caused the game to not know what the hell to do with me. So one of the things that this game does is your office, you can expand, and I found that for some reason, if I call the real estate agent too early in the game where it's not supposed to happen yet, even though they've given me the number, I can't leave my office because it doesn't know what to do anymore. Because it just sees, oh, you call the real estate agent in. And then the game goes, it just freezes. Like you can move around, you can check your phone, you can call numbers, but they don't answer. You can check your objectives, but you can't go anywhere. So after a while, I just kept getting frustrated of having to restart a chapter, watch the same cutscene with maybe voice acting or not voice acting this time, and then just have to do another Google search for a solution that I'm either not going to figure out or is just like somewhat of a time sink. And sometimes it's interesting and sometimes it isn't. And quite frankly, the only thing that could have saved us was the story. And by the time I gave up, the only interesting story that they had resolved so fast that it didn't have time to develop. So like, I think with this concept, there's definitely something there. I really do feel like this game had something. And then because it's bogged down in just pure bugs and a lot of what feels like just copy pasting mechanics, it really fizzled out really quickly. Like this could have been great if this was like what a traditional like multi-chapter, like almost Telltale game would be, where it's like, here's a 2-hour chapter that just gives you like a set of missions that lead to you solving this one big case. And then then they send another chapter like somewhere down the road and you do another set. And sometime down the road, there's another one and you do another big thing. But because it's this one massive thing with a bunch of different branching people that you choose at one point, you can only do one of these 3 people full time. So you now cut a couple of missions out of the game, which is strange to me. So like, there's a lot of weird decisions. Like you get a point in the game where it says, hey, these 3 contacts you've been working with, you only have enough time to do one of them full time. To which I go, why? Can't I just do all the missions? Because that means now I have to replay the game to do those missions next time. But what's the point of redoing the missions if I know the answers now? What's the mystery? So I'm literally just, it's like playing a visual novel where you just have to hit the auto button until it gets to the point where you have to pick the answer that changes to a different route. It's frustrating. And it got to a point where I said, man, I love you. Like, I think you had a lot of cool ideas in here, but my God, you just couldn't do this. You just couldn't do it well. And I've seen in various things that people have said it's kind of the same things, where one of the biggest complaints I saw was that because the game has been out for a while now, enough people have played it that the Google searches kind of do themselves, so you almost know the answer before you search it.
Yeah, it's like so obscure that Google knows that you're looking at it because of this game.
Like have you ever played the game Her Story?
It sounds familiar, but no.
It's a game where you get this, all you do is you type into this fake like computer keywords and it brings up these different video clips. Yeah, and you try to piece together the mystery through that. I think this game could work if it wanted to do the Google thing, but in a browser within the game that would just give you searches. But because you're doing it in real life, it's way too easy to either have the search done for you so you already see what basically the answer is, or when you search something that you're looking for, it just immediately pops up a GameSpot article that tells you what the solution is. And you're almost tempted to click that rather than to look for the information that might help you get the answer. So it kind of takes away the sleuthing part of it, because a lot of it just ends up being you reading like essentially game facts, right?
Not to mention it's also throwing off your online footprint, so now you're gonna start getting weird ads.
That is true. Maybe the whole catch was they were trying to get me to do like enough things so that all of a sudden I'm just gonna get sponsored by Ray Shadow Legends again. I don't know.
Adam, I'm going to propose something for you, because we've never really had a review scale on this, but I want to throw it out and see how it works and if we end up sticking with this. But I'm going to propose a 6-point scale. So we'll do 1 is absolutely terrible, 2 is like it's bad, but like it's not, there's some good elements, 3 is like middle of the road, like it could be good, it could be bad, but it's going to lean more towards bad, 4 is kind of, it's not great, but on like it's more good than bad, 5 being like, this is a good game with some flaws, and 6 being perfect. What do you think of that scale, and how would you rank?
Oh, it's a 2.
Chinatown Detective Agency. Okay.
Like, again, there are things that I like about this game. I think that conceptually, like if somebody could do this right, I think this could be a fantastic game. I think this could be an amazing achievement, because we've seen games out there that use narratives and games as an art very, very well without doing a lot mechanically. And I think if you put it in the hands of the right people, I think you could get a game that's like this, that is simply incredible and makes you feel like a real detective. The problem is this game gets bogged down in the fact that it's a broken mess in some cases. And then on top of that, like, it just... the only way I guess I can really say is the game made me feel dumb, and that doesn't make you want to play a game.
Mhm.
Because like when it's trying to tell you, oh, you got to look for this like set of coordinates and figure out what that is. And I literally Googled like, okay, I have like this string of numbers. Can you convert this into a GPS coordinate? And every time I tried to do it, it said couldn't recognize the string. And I spent like 10 minutes trying because unless you're an expert in this stuff, I don't know exactly how coordinates work. So I'm trying to do it with like the base level knowledge that my brain has. And, you know, I want to do this without getting like hints and I want to do this without help. But the problem is a lot of these things that they put in just aren't good enough. Like they're not easy. The stamp thing that I told you guys about was a great way to do it because all I had to do was look up, like I found like the language in the thing, and I kind of recognized one of them as Greek. So I'm like, okay, I'll type this thing in to a Greek translator, and got that. Posted that with postage stamp. Found my answer there. Then when it came to the stamp, I said, okay, what's like the black stamp on a postage stamp mean? And it came up with a cancellation order. I'm like, okay, so what's a cancellation order by country? And slowly but surely I pieced it together. And that was cool. I felt like I was actually solving a puzzle. Whereas the Polybius cipher, the GPS coordinates, like I basically felt like I needed to YouTube or I needed to check like a GameFAQ article about, like I needed to check somebody that just had the answer to give it to me. Because at that point I'm like, okay, I give up. Like this isn't fun. And you mix the lack of fun with the bugs, and it just got to a point where it's like, man, like I want to like you, but you're making it so hard for me to do so.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those. It has like a cool premise and a cool idea, but it didn't quite stick the execution.
Yeah, and then it was also weird when, like, at the time that I finally just turned it off, they like, hey, you guys like nudity, right? I'm like, yeah, but not in that graphic style. Well, here's a girl getting out of a hot tub, and there's her pixelated ass cheek. I'm like, that's nice, thanks, guys. It's kind of weird. It was definitely an odd feeling looking at that, being like, is this what it was like in the Atari days when people were trying to find like pornographic material? Is that what this was?
That's I think what it was. Yeah.
It was weird.
Adam, let's move on to our last segment of the show, Trophy Stumpers. So, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time listening, we play a little game here where I'm going to throw Adam with 10 trophies from a game, and it's trophies or achievements from a game, and he has to guess the game based on this. Adam, I've been thinking about it. Do you think I'm giving you too much leeway by having multiple guesses? Do you think I should limit this to one?
Do whatever you like. It's your game. I'll take the challenge.
I'll give you 2. I'll give you 1 at 5, and I'll get you 1 at 10.
Okay.
Okay? Because I feel like you're getting it way too easy with these 3. I want to start seeing some L's on this.
Even though I guessed them all wrong anyway until the last guess.
I want to get the L's on the board. So, Adam, are you ready for this week's game?
I am.
All right. First trophy on the board, vertically unchallenged.
Okay.
Second trophy, lunacy.
Mm-hmm.
Third is stranger than friction.
Okay.
Number 4, 4-ring circus. And
okay.
5, the part where he kills you.
Well, the stranger than friction just made me think Tony Hawk, and then the last 2 made me go, okay, well, it's not Tony Hawk.
All right. Why do you think Tony Hawk?
Well, stranger than friction, it sounds like the kind of thing that you would do on a grind, and Stranger Than Friction is very close to a title by Bad Religion, which is called Stranger Than Fiction, and Bad Religion is a big part of Tony Hawk games because that's punk culture. So that's just kind of where my brain went there. And then you just wiped anything that I had away with that. So, yeah.
Do you have any guesses at the moment, or was it just Tony Hawk that you were leaning on?
No, I don't really have anything.
Okay. Well, I can confirm for you. I'll use that as your guess. It is not Tony Hawk.
I kind of figured.
You know, I'm just trying to help here, sir. And I think I gave you 5 trophies. So yeah, the trophy number 6 was the part where he kills you. 7th trophy, or what did I screw up here?
You're struggling
1,
here.
2, 3, 4, 5.
You see, this is what happens when you put in new rules. Now you can't
9.
follow them.
Yeah, all right, I'm good. I've screwed it up here. The 6th trophy is Schrodinger's catch.
Okay.
7th one is white space.
All right.
8 is bridge building.
Okay.
9th is high five.
Okay.
And 10 is tater tote.
Oh my god.
So once again, I'll give you the trophies. Vertically Unchallenged, Lunacy, Stranger Than Friction, Four Ring Circus, The Part Where He Kills You, Schrodinger's Catch, Bridge Building, High Five, and Tater Tote.
Oh, man.
Do you have any inclinations, any leanings, anything like that?
Well, like, I guess the leaning was a lot with a lot of those trophies. It sounds like what you would do for like puzzle games, but then the part where he kills you just throws me off. I'm trying to think of like a puzzle game where you like die, and I'm like, well, I don't think that exists because that unless it's Catherine, but I know it's not Catherine because there's no guy that kills you in that. So also, Catherine would be really weird if it had all those achievements in there. That makes no sense. The only thing that I'm trying to zero in on is Schrodinger because I'm wondering if that's like naming somebody. And I couldn't tell you what that would be. Can you give me it one more time?
Of course. So Vertically Unchallenged, Lunacy, Stranger Than Friction, Four Ring Circus, The Part Where He Kills You, White Space, Schrodinger's Catch, Bridge Building, High Five, and Tater Tote.
Okay. I'm trying to like use some of the weird ones to make me figure out what it might represent, but like they just aren't doing it. I'm still trying to stay on the puzzle thing because again, some of these achievements just sound very much like puzzle things, like bridge building, Stranger Than Friction, because that sounds like, you know, different things that could be related to like physics puzzles, things like that. The other things that I'm trying to think about would be the one that's really throwing me off, honestly, is the circus one. That one is confusing the hell out of me because I'm trying to figure what that fits into in any aspect. What was the first one again? Because that was the one that I'm just trying to mention off the top of my head here.
Vertically Unchallenged.
Okay, yeah, that feels like a puzzle thing. The one there are two trophies that are making me lean a certain way. High Five makes me think it's something that could be related to multiplayer. And the White Space feels like something that's like the map. It's like feels like the aesthetic. Because I mean, white space means one of two things. It's either a void, or it's meaning like it's a color reference.
Okay.
So, piecing all that together, I'm trying to think of like what would apply to that. And the only thing that would match that, I was about to say Portal, but then I went, well, no, Portal 1 doesn't have gameplay. So, I'm just trying to think of like, unless the part where he kills you is like when Wheatley tries to kill you, which could be like the one thing I could go with. Lunacy can mean anything because there's like a bunch of characters in that game that are fucking crazy. The Schrodinger one is the one that I'm trying to figure out because I'm trying to remember what the name. I don't think Schrodinger has anything to do with naming on that because the more that I think about it, the more that I think those two multiplayer robots were named like something completely different. So I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's more just like Schrodinger is like the Schrodinger's cat thing. Yeah, I'm just going to go with Portal 2 because like enough things match that it kind of makes me lean in that direction.
Is that your final answer?
I mean, if I sit here long enough, I'm not going to come up with much else at this point. So,
well, you don't need to, sir. It is Portal 2.
Oh God. Okay. Thanks. Because I sat there like the only other thing that was kind of coming to mind was like Stanley Parable, but Stanley Parable is a multiplayer, and High Five was kind of leading me otherwise. Also, there's not really a part where he kills you, but like enough happens in that game to make me think like puzzle game, a little bit of like a weird like quirkiness to it with some of those achievement names. Can you tell me what the Tater Tote one is?
Yeah, Tater Tote is where the heck is it? That's basically when GLaDOS becomes a potato.
Oh, yeah, that would make total sense.
The description is just carry science forward.
Why did I not think of that before? You would think after all the times that because I've played through Portal 2, I want to say 2 times single player and at least 1 time at the multiplayer. You think I'd remember that part?
Yeah, so the kind of areas I was trying to get to go with vertically unchallenged and stranger than friction, kind of that puzzly aspect, lunacy just because of the end. You know what? Screw it. Portal's been out for like a decade now. Where you launch Wheatley into the moon, lunacy, like the moon.
Oh, is it spelled
Um,
weirdly? Is that why?
no, I don't think so.
It's just spelled as lunacy.
Lunacy. Yeah.
Okay, I thought they might have been
Four-ring.
like just, like funny with like an e extra.
Nope. Four-ring circus, just the four. You know, if you're playing with a co-op, you got four rings of a portal. Um,
Oh yeah, okay, now that makes sense.
the part where he kills you was to kind of throw you off, and also to like kind of get you towards, partly to throw you off, but also like you're not fighting GLaDOS, you're fighting I think it's Wheatley.
Yeah,
And
Stephen
literally the
Merchant,
trophy
I
just
believe,
said,
was the voice actor for that.
yeah. So literally the description, the trophy is called the part where he kills you, and the description is this is that part. So thank you, thank you, PlayStation trophies.
More like thank you,
Schrodinger's
Valve,
cat,
because you know it's their cleverness with that.
yeah. Schrodinger's cat is just meant to be, you know, that whole science aspect. Bridge building, I really didn't have anything. The white space I kind of screwed up. It was actually supposed to be white out, but I feel like it still got that once you get that white aesthetic. Bridge building, just because, you know, working together with partners. High five, because I remember that you could high five your partner, and I think that was part of the promotional material as well.
It was
Kinda getting
definitely that
co-op.
achievement that definitely leaned me towards Portal 2 because I'm thinking, okay, are there puzzle games with like that kind of
Co-op.
like level of multiplayerism? And I'm like, that's pretty much like the only thing I could think of.
And tater tot, because I figured the potato.
Yeah, that
So.
oddly enough, that was like the hardest one for me to put a nail down, which is funny in retrospect.
You know, I thought I had you on this one, but you did pretty well. I'm gonna have to up my game for the next one.
Yeah, it's gonna get to the point that you're either gonna like you're one of two things gonna happen. You're either gonna give up and just start giving me really hard ones, or you're gonna give me the easiest layup in the world and I'm gonna fail it.
Oh, there's gonna be a day I'm gonna put Mass Effect on here, and you're not even gonna know, and you're gonna screw it up.
Oh, I'm gonna if that happens, like you might actually have to pull a really obscure achievement list for me to not figure out Mass Effect because those achievements have enough references in there that I will catch it.
All right.
So like I know you're not gonna do it next week because then it'll be obvious, but I know that like at some point in the next, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks, you're gonna have a note specifically saying, all right, someday I'm getting Mass Effect, and you're gonna like craft this perfect set of 10.
I'm gonna do like the Mass Effect trilogy, and then that would be like, sorry, no, it's just a combination of all the trophies for all the games.
So you're gonna do the screw you, I don't care what Kevin said last time. I'm gonna get
Exactly.
you back on this.
Exactly. Kevin doesn't make the rules here. I do. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to submit your own trophies list for Trophy Stumpers, feel free to do so. Send us an email at pixelplaypodcast at gmail.com. I'd be happy to read it and see if you guys can stump Adam, because clearly I'm not doing a good job at it. And with that being said, Adam, that concludes our show for this week. Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. If this is your first time listening to us, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope to see you again next week. If this is not your first time and you're one of our regulars, thank you so much for being part of this show. We greatly appreciate you guys, and you guys are the reason why we do this. We'd love to have you guys join us and talk with us and interact with us, whether it's through the YouTube comments here, leaving a like and subscribe, joining our Discord, or just saying hi on the socials with a like or a comment. We would greatly appreciate it, as we are working towards our way to getting 100 subscribers concurrently or regularly at a time. So if you guys are listening and you haven't done so, please hit that subscribe button. We would really appreciate it, and we will see you guys next week. Bye for now.